Good morning and welcome. Thank you for registering for today's Masterclass, as we're now calling them, which is all about preparing for the staycation rush. Thankfully, we now have a plan coming out of the third national lockdown in the UK, with most hotels opening in May, some in June this year. We're still restricted on international travel, so this has meant that British hotels are seeing a surge in booking requests. We're here today with Profit Room and Hotstats, who will both share some amazing facts and figures, and we will be delighted to hear from the horse's mouth, as it were, the beautiful St Michael's Resort in Cornwall. It's 10 AM, it's Wednesday the 10th of March 2021. There is a feeling of optimism in the UK despite today's rain, although not in Scotland, I hear, and explosive headlines about the royal family. My name is Jane Pendleby. I am the CEO of HOSPA, the Hospitality Professionals Association. So I'm delighted to be joined by Samantha Williams from Profit Room, Aggie Wojciechowska from Hotstats, and Lloyd Brock from St Michael's Resort in Falmouth. We hope to be taking some questions throughout, so please use the questions tab in the GoToWebinar app. If there's not enough time to answer all the queries, we will get back to you afterwards. And there will also be a recording and summary of the key points available on the HOSPA website within the next day or so. So thank you for joining us. We're going to start with some quick poll questions, so stand by and be ready to choose an answer. So let me just launch the first one. Hopefully that is now showing on your screens. So when do you feel the market demand will be back to pre-COVID levels? And then if you can select one of the following, Q2, Q3, Q4 this year, or 2022 or beyond. You can say it's not looking good for Q2 already. Straightforward. Right, I'm going to close that poll now. The results should just come up on the screens for you as well. So it's looking much better for next year, although there's a little bit of optimism there for Q3 in 2021. I must say a lot of the webinars that I have been on recently have indicated that we're looking at 2023, possibly 2024, and even beyond that. Just another quick one. Have you personally booked a holiday in the UK this year? So yes, no, or thinking about it would be great. Some great answers on there as well. Oh, interesting. I shall close that poll. And there you go. You can see the results there. So that is actually not what I expected to see. Most people I have spoken to have already booked their holiday. So over half of you haven't, and about a quarter have. So that's interesting. And then the final one, just for this little batch of questions. Will you be looking to holiday in the UK or abroad next year? So in 2022, are you anticipating a UK-based holiday or overseas? This one probably won't surprise anyone. Let me just close that poll and share the results with you. So yeah, I think we're all want that guaranteed sunshine that we get from an overseas holiday. So that's great. Thank you all very much for taking part in those. I will now hand over to Aggie, actually, from Hotstats, who is going to be sharing some benchmarking stats that will help all of us plan with confidence for the coming season. Aggie, over to you.
Thank you very much and welcome everyone. My name is Aggie. I'm a Director of Hotel Intelligence at Hotstats. Hotstats is a P&L benchmarking platform. We deliver the data that we collect from the industry in a way of internal, external benchmarking, as well as market insights that we provide for the hoteliers. And can I ask for the next slide, Jane? Thank you. So today we're going to discuss quickly an overview of recovery and how it is all looking in various parts of the world and how is it comparing with Europe, as well as I'll be mentioning 3 key trends that we're seeing now in the hospitality industry and how can they become an opportunity for hoteliers. So first of all, like I mentioned, this graph is showing GOP performance year on year for various parts of the world. What you can see quite clearly now is that that China is in the V-shaped recovery, and that's a region, or that's a region that is coming back to the pre-COVID levels. They're not quite there yet, and they have not really achieved 100% of what was before the pandemic. However, they got very close. And another region that is obviously worth looking at the moment is the Middle East. So Middle East is also recovering with restrictions certainly lifted there, and obviously with the holiday season being there, the peak season in that region, occupancy getting back to 60–70% in the recent month. Unfortunately, Europe is not looking so positively with the second lockdown or third lockdown, with second wave of COVID as well. We can see that obviously the situation in Europe is a little bit more dire. Next slide, yeah. So what also I'll be talking about, like I mentioned, is three trends and opportunities that are now that we can use in hotels and in the industry at the moment. And the first one is looking at the TRevPAR. TRevPAR is one of the main KPIs, and looking at the not only concentrating on the RevPAR of the hotels, but actually looking at the total and the full picture and the full revenue mix. In general, we pay a lot of attention to RevPAR as hoteliers, but also I would like to show you here on this picture that at the moment globally, or this is 2020 figures, rooms revenue was about 60% of the full global revenue mix of hotels on a global basis, and on some regions, such, for example, like Middle East, actually rooms revenue is only 50%. So obviously, at the moment, in the times we are at right now, it's important that we do have a look at the full picture and consider all revenue streams in a hotel. Next slide, thank you. With the revenue performance for other streams, so these are other streams apart from rooms revenue, so for Fnb revenue, conference, marketing, room hire, spa, leisure revenue, you can see on the slide that obviously they have decreased very significantly in 2020, and they have taken a very hard hit last year. This is predominantly important for asset classes like full service hotels and obviously luxury segment that's been hit the most during the pandemic, and they have experienced a really long periods of negative GOP per available room, really difficult times for these asset classes, and you can see here that's showing as well in the on the slide in terms of the revenue performance. However, if you look at the next slide as well, what I wanted to show is the F&B performance on per occupied room basis. So this is taking into consideration to actually got guests staying in a hotel room. And what we can see is that in certain regions, even though that they have started recovery, like APAC or the Middle East, there is still a loss of F&B revenue, that it's not coming from the lack of demand, but also from the fact that all these countries and us as well have had to implement social distancing rules in both bars and restaurants, and we can see that already on this graph. And another story here is the room service revenue. So this is another area that was historically dismissed by hoteliers. However, here in regions, globally, we have noticed that this is the revenue stream that has increased, and particularly in the Middle East, and it has actually become an opportunity for hoteliers during the pandemic. And as a summary, like I mentioned, it's really important to look at TRevPAR as a whole and look at all revenue streams that we've got available and we can create in a hotel. We want to really creatively utilize the space that we have because of the lack of demand that we're facing at the moment in the industry, and building up packages that would then increase our TREFPA and also in return our profitability. It's also another opportunity that we've got here in the hotel industry. Another thing is also the C&B events, any events, weddings, conferences, and so on. There's a lot of business that has not happened. So it didn't happen this year. It's not going to happen this year. So in 2021. So obviously that's another opportunity for hoteliers for the coming periods, probably next year, to take advantage of, as all these events have been postponed. Another trend that we are seeing is, like Jane already mentioned, we've got we are preparing now for the summer rush, and most likely a very busy summer that we're going to have this year in the UK. Can I have next slide, Jane, please? Thank you. And like I mentioned, the demand in Europe, but obviously in the UK as well, currently is definitely leisure driven. This is the segment that's been relatively resilient during the pandemic. In other regions of the world that are recovering, we can see the return of other segments like conferences or business or corporate business. However, that's not the case for Europe or for the UK yet. So if you look at the next slide, this is a comparison of performance of key cities in the UK versus the South Coast. What happens here is that we can see that big cities have been really significantly affected during the crisis. A majority of them are faced overall a negative GOP again in 2020. With, if you look at on the right hand side, the picture from January 2021, that looks even more dire. However, what happens is that properties in the South Coast have outperformed the key cities in the UK, and this is something that we can see also much more clearly on the next slide. Where we're comparing key cities, again, the grey line, and that's gross profit per, so GOP per for the UK. We can see key cities in the grey line. However, in comparison with the South Coast and also UK resorts, so places like Dorset, Somerset, like I said, the South Coast or the UK resorts have performed much better last year. So, and what we can see as well, that in terms of their profitability and also TREFPA, what happened is that they managed to, during the summer period, the busy period, achieve even better and a better performance than it was before the crisis, because obviously the moment the restrictions lifted, the demand returned and people really wanted to book holidays, and obviously this is something that we are now expecting in the summer period. So as a summary, we're most likely we're heading into a very busy summer, which obviously we're very happy about. And the only caveat here is that also that even though the hotels might be busy and with a very high occupancy, there is still something to remember, is that we need to prepare how we can then also mitigate any problems that come from, or even maybe loss of revenue that might come from social distancing measures that we need to implement in the industry. And the final trend is profitability of the hotels. So we've been talking quite a bit in the industry, in the sector, about the topic if we're going to open leaner hotels in the future. So obviously costs has been a very big topic that we've been discussing in the industry. And if you see on the next slide. And this is what we're going to start with in terms of like how profitability has been affected, is increased cost of operating. So this is something that we've been monitoring here at Hotstats, because we've been looking at how the pandemic has affected the cost line of a hotel. This slide is for Europe, but actually it was exactly the same trend in other regions, Asia Pacific, Middle East, and so on. We've seen that trend globally. And what happened is that on a per occupied room basis, we saw a spike in the cost of operating and a property. And costs included here are predominantly room supplies or cost of cleaning bedrooms, guest servicing, and so on. So we saw for 4 or 5 months or so a spike in these costs. However, this has now stabilized, and return really to the pre-crisis levels. And on the next slide, we've got undistributed departments. So this is, we had a closer look also at overheads and what's been happening across the world and how how it compares with Europe. So obviously, in general, undistributed departments, also there's been a lot of reduction, unprecedented reduction in cost base that we faced in the last 10 months or so in the whole industry. It ranges depending on department, region, 30 to 50% on average. However, if you look at sales and marketing spend, that's been affected the most out of all the undistributed departments, 50 to 70% drop year on year. And this is predominantly linked with the marketing fee that the hoteliers pay, and that fee is linked with the revenue, but definitely something to have a look at. And another thing here is that obviously it's been a really big trend to implement zero-based budgeting, and hotels in the current circumstances, they've been really scrutinizing each and every expense that they had in their hotels, with the view of if this is something they're going to carry forward or not. And then the next slide, it's an analysis of the biggest hotel cost that we've got in a hotel. That's obviously payroll. This analysis also relates to undistributed department and how this has been, the cost been evolving, the payroll cost structure, how it's been evolving. And that's the point of why we were mentioning the Middle East, the China and the Middle East in the beginning as regions that are recovering. Now, what we're showing here is that even though these regions are getting back to the operation levels almost at the same level as before the COVID, definitely when it comes to payroll costs, that's not the case. For China at the moment, in overheads, the levels of overheads and the costs, labor costs, in overheads is about 10 to 15% lower than to what it was before COVID. And in the Middle East, we can see these reductions of 40 to 60% on a per available room basis. This is quite significant. And again, even though the region is recovering, obviously what we want to see is how this is going to happen and what's going to happen in Europe. At the moment, we're not really able to see and have a full picture because obviously of all the furlough and the governmental support that the hotels have been receiving. And another point, final point here in this trend is obviously it's the break even. So this is something that we've been again discussing quite a bit because it was a big decision at some point during the pandemic for a lot of hoteliers. Shall we close or shall we open? And we've been monitoring the occupancy levels that are required for a hotel to open or to be profitable or to break even rather. Before pandemic, on average, and obviously this depends again on the region and the asset class, but on average it was about 35% occupancy level. This number definitely decreased during the crisis. Here on the right hand side, you already have last 3 months of 2020. And if you look at the regions like Europe and US, that break-even point is much lower. Again, two main factors here is the ability to cut down the costs, but also obviously the governmental help that we've been receiving as an industry. With other regions like Asia Pacific or Middle East, which maybe they have not managed to get that break-even point as low as we have here in Europe. And next slide, please. Thank you. So yes, so like I said, there is a lot of evidence and quite strong evidence that we might be opening leaner hotels in the future, and a lot of evidence points towards actually payroll. So we might be seeing a lot of changes in the P&L makeup. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of hoteliers are getting back to the zero-based budgeting so that they can have an impact and really understand cost structures of the hotels and see if they have to return to the same structure in the future months or years. And at the same time, it's really difficult to look at the data on a year-on-year basis and compare with what was happening in 2019. That's why it's really valuable now to have a look at it, have a look at your KPIs, have a look at your performance and how you're performing versus your competitors. and also utilize this opportunity and benchmarking to see how various costs, cost lines will and departments will affect profitability of your property. Thank you, and thank you.
Right, that's great, Aggie. Thank you very much. Really useful things there. That I think I've already got some questions and comments coming in about those. But let's save some of those to the end and go just quickly on to our next quick poll, which will lead us nicely into Samantha's presentation. So the question is now on your screen. And do you feel you have the right revenue and marketing strategies in place to maximise demand for your property? So that's a straight yes, no answer there. And the swing on this is quite significant, actually. It's slowing. Oh, very interesting. Right, I'm just about to close that poll, so if you haven't already voted, please do so now. And there are the results of this one. But I would say that it was going in between all of those. As I was watching it go up and down on the screen, it was changing quite significantly as it went through. So thanks, Aggie, for that. That was really useful. Sam, can you tell us just a little bit about Profit Room and share some of your findings to give our listeners today the insights that they need to maximise demands this summer? And I'll leave you to introduce Lloyd as well at the relevant point, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, thank you, Aggie. You've set the scene really nicely for the second part of this masterclass. At Profit Room, we work almost exclusively with leisure businesses, hotels, resorts and service departments. And we can see here how we enable them to have more profit. So everything we do is exactly like Hotstats. It's to empower hoteliers to have more increased revenue and more profitable revenue from their online streams as well. First of all, we have our technology, and then second of all, services, which really support our technology and provide overarching strategies for our clients. Moving on to what we're going to talk about today, if we could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So here's the agenda. So first of all, the surge, and this is around the whole point of today's webinar, the trends that we're seeing, customer confidence and how it's being gained, how to package online offers and how to optimize those, and then lastly, guest loyalty. First of all, though, it really is a real pleasure to be joined by Lloyd today. So we've been working with Lloyd and the team at St Michael's Resort for around 6 months now, Lloyd. So yeah, it'd be great for you just to introduce yourself and the resort.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, Lloyd Brock from St Michael's Resort, Digital Marketing Manager. We've based on the South Coast in Falmouth, so we feel incredibly lucky to have had such a bumper summer last year. And already it's looking like so far 2021 is going to be follow the same pattern. So yeah.
Thanks, Lloyd. It's really interesting, actually, Jane. You asked us to talk about the experience that we're having at Profit Room. Because we almost work exclusively in the leisure industry, a lot of our statistics are really positive, and that's because of the leisure boom. So Aggie has already mentioned how leisure is leading the demand. So Lloyd, perhaps you can just explain how your business has changed over the last year, because actually you're having record-breaking months in terms of revenue generated.
Yeah, it's been obviously a strange year for everyone in hospitality. We made the decision to keep our marketing team relatively intact during the first lockdown, and we made the focus to improve our systems. So one of the sort of predictions we had that we may have to reduce our reservations capacity. So we knew that taking online bookings was going to be a strong part of our armory in combating the current climate. So we looked at our booking engine and we saw that although mobile traffic was going up year on year, we were seeing sort of 70% of our traffic was from mobile devices. Actually, our conversion rates on mobile was getting lower. So we looked around at different booking engines to see which one had the best offering for us. So we went with Profit Room on that, and we were lucky enough to get the booking engine sort of transferred over to us just in time for the boom again towards the end of July. So we've gone from seeing 20% booking for mobile devices up to seeing 50-50 split between mobile and desktop. So for us, it's been really useful.
Thanks, Lloyd. It's great to see that insight there, and it goes without saying, we're really enjoying our partnership together. If we could have the next slide, please, Jane. Here we are. So the first topic we are going to talk about is the surge. So again, everything that we're talking about today really is a deeper insight into the leisure demand. So please do bear that in mind when we present the data. The first one here to talk about is website traffic. Now, website traffic is probably the first indicator for a hotel, the first chance they have to respond to market demand. We can see here, so the data that we're presenting today is for this year, so it runs from the 1st of January through to the 8th of March. We can see in orange sessions, so the light orange are sessions from last year, and the darker orange are sessions from this year. The blue lines across actually represent conversion. So we can see the lighter blue line at the bottom is conversion from last year, and the blue line floating at the top there is conversions, website conversions from this year. We can see almost an instant increase there as well, from probably generated from the Prime Minister's talks. We notice actually that every time there's a big announcement from the Prime Minister, it really does influence direct bookings, and we can see that in this chart here. Something that is worth noting though, so traffic so far hasn't yet surpassed traffic from last year. And what we're seeing is that actually conversion, the percentage of conversion has almost doubled. So in our experience, total conversion, so people that land on a website and then go through to process a booking, sits between 1.5 and 2%. What we're seeing at the moment are total conversion levels reaching almost 4%, with the average being 3% this year. So that's a really good insight there. Lloyd, you actually have a great way in which you look at website traffic and booking engine searches to really define your marketing strategy. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So it sort of started during the first lockdown, and we were all in anticipation of when we might start to see demand growing again. So a lot of people, including some OTAs, actually paused their ad spend completely. We took a slightly different approach. We, reduced it significantly, but we kept it at a trickle. And the reason we did that was so that we could see our search impressions for that, our Google Ads traffic and our social ads as well. So by plotting daily our booking engine searches, we were able to, really tap in first and foremost before the bookings arrived, when the demand was increasing. And from that, we were able to increase our advertising appropriately. We found out that we could look at the booking engine URLs for when people are searching. So we were able to see that the majority of our PPC traffic were looking to book in the within 6 weeks time period, which was fantastic until we got to the stage where quite quickly we were seeing sort of full occupancy for our summer weeks. So a lot of our spend was redundant in effect. We were sort of paying for traffic that when they arrived on our website that we had no rooms available for them. So we started to look at which groups, which channels, which audiences of our marketing campaigns were looking to book when we had availability. So we shifted our campaigns and our efforts towards those channels. So one of the things I think Sam's going to talk about a bit later on is how we used offers for our shoulder months to really drive demand and through that quieter periods.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Lloyd. And when we caught up before this webinar, I found that really insightful. I think, unfortunately, as Jane referred to, and actually Aggie as well in her presentation, the part of the business which has been cut the most is marketing and sales. But actually, you've got some really good advice there with how a smaller budget or limited resource can make a really big effect. So thank you for sharing. On this stage here, then, we can see booking dynamics. So these represent bookings that are being taken. Now we can see a real flipping point towards mid and the end of January there, when confidence really started to grow again. We can also see big spikes in demand, again, similar times there to when we've had the announcements from the Prime Minister. And now we can see bookings starting to steady off a little bit too. If we could move on to the next slide. Brilliant, thank you. And this is a really interesting one for me. So as part of maximising the demand, we often work with hoteliers to take advantage of what's to come. So we can see here booking windows, but also minimum length of stay restrictions. Now, where we're seeing, record volumes of demand really for coastal areas like Cornwall, and Lloyd, I'm sure you can comment on that in a moment, we have advised putting a minimum night length of stay. Prices, there's definitely a huge increase in prices, which we'll come on to in a moment. But we can see here the booking window is probably one of the biggest factors. At the moment, so this time last year, we can see the booking window is a lot lower. At the moment, the booking window for across the UK is averaging just under 100 days. So it goes to show that people are booking right now for their summer holidays, and that actually the confidence in the market is domestic. Lloyd, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about your packages. So you've obviously noticed trends for people booking for the summer, and you've launched a summer package to support that with a minimum length of stays on weekends.
Yeah, certainly. So first and foremost, we wanted to ensure that there was confidence to book. So we introduced certain strategies such as offering free in-room service, and looking at ways that we could offer flexible cancellation policies. It was all things that the OTAs were doing that we were aware that we needed to match that, and maybe if we could go further. So we were looking at cancellation policies, room service, maybe different dining options. So potentially not just dining with us each night, they could go and eat at a partner restaurant as part of that package. And yeah, we called it the full board break, and particularly during the first lockdown, we saw huge demand for that. So yeah, it was in terms of trying to bring those people back again. We've obviously then looking at bounce back offers, working with you, Sam, any ways that we can get any direct benefits communicated to those people at the booking engine stage.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you, Lloyd. Yeah, so that there are different ways in which you can increase the revenue. The next section here, then, we're looking at customer confidence. So what's given the confidence for our guests to make bookings, and where are they coming from and why? The first graph here, which I'm going to show you, is around cancellations. Perfect, thanks again. Yeah, around cancellations. So we can see here cancelled booking averages versus a turnover as well. So again, as expected, at the beginning of January, it was announced that we were going back into a lockdown, so that cancellation spike was expected there. And then again, towards the end of February, when we had the roadmap out of lockdown, expected cancellations there, but otherwise it's fairly steady. If we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what does 2021 look like so far? So there's a couple of statistics actually which really surprised me. The first one actually being the bottom one here, so 23% increase in prepaid rates. What do we mean by prepaid rates? They are your advanced purchase rates or special offer or packages which are typically non-refundable. What we've done at Profit Room is we've enabled COVID secure policies essentially. So on the booking engine, it's really clear that when the guest books, they can book with confidence by paying now, and should the hotel be closed or there be a restriction which impacts their booking, they can then have that value back in terms of a credit. So I think that's really helped, but I personally was really surprised to see that more people are paying deposits and more people are paying up front. Lloyd, what's your experience there?
I think it comes down to us being so full in the summer. There's a lot of disappointed people that weren't able to get their summer holidays, especially when the window that we were out of lockdown seemed so short. So I think there's certainly a lot of people that are willing to secure their booking, as soon as possible. And we're seeing a slightly sort of different sort of clientele as what we would do previously. who are prepared to pay up front.
Yeah, brilliant. It's great insights. And it is definitely one which shocked me, because I think probably naively I expected everything to be flexible, but that's not the case. The second stat there in the middle, so we're seeing a 37% decrease in OTA bookings. Confidence with booking with OTAs was low, and it was quite evident that we were seeing a drop in OTA bookings last year, and that actually has continued into this year too. I think people are now more aware of the benefits of booking direct, and they have more confidence to book direct, due to all of the circumstances last year. So that's fantastic news for hoteliers. And then the last one here, so there's a 67.2% increase in average booking value, and this is for like periods. So for example, if we look at the summer months, the average booking value is 67% higher for this summer than it was for booking for last summer. And there's a couple of factors. First of all, obviously, as demand increases, there's room there to increase prices, but also length of stay. So the average booking value has increased because the length of stay window has increased as well. And packages. So as Lloyd just mentioned, one of the ways to really make yourself unique is by including things like room service and including extra elements into a stay. And obviously then you can charge more for. Yeah, if we can move on. Perfect. And that leads us on to package optimization and providing unique stays that are experience led. So Lloyd, you're in a very lucky position that you've just launched a very gorgeous spa. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about the spa and how you build packages around that offering as well.
Yes, certainly. So we had the spa bill, I think it was a couple of years now. We had a £50 million redevelopment to the resort, and I think 2020 won the Cornwall Tourism Spa Experience of the Year. For that, the spa's given us an opportunity to tap into a different market, and whereas previously we were probably predominantly summer-based with families and people staying for that peak summer period, what the spa's been able to do is allow us to look at slightly different markets, maybe sort of within sort of 2-hour drive from the resort, bringing people down for those off times such as midweek when we have low occupancy. We can offer sort of 1-2 night breaks, which really pull people towards us, and that's, we need a high occupancy at the resort to hit our targets, and bringing people into the resort October, November, December and throughout the winter is vital to us.
Thank you, Lloyd. And we're seeing that as well, where demand has increased. The typical seasons, if you like, so a typical high season for the UK would be around mid-July through to the first week of September, matching that of the school holidays. But actually what we're seeing in terms of business on the books is a really extended summer period of people starting to travel from June and all the way through actually to half term. So the typical season in which people are willing to travel, or where you would expect business on the books, has extended as well, and so have the prices. If we can move across to the next slide, please, Jane. Thank you. Here we are. So just having a look at packages that sell and what to include. So first of all, differentiating between a package and an offer is really important. Just because you're going to package something together to sell to the customer, it does not mean you have to discount it. I think often hoteliers try to show a discount or try to show savings, if you like, but actually the market at the moment is very experience led. They are commanding more from their stay, so if they can book something with an experience, they will pay more for it. That's very evident. Including experiences, so we've just spoken about an example there of spa experiences, but other dining experiences or golf or even utilising businesses nearby is a really great way to sell packages. Remembering to make it unique, that goes without saying. Don't apply too many restrictions. So the more restrictions you apply that are unclear, the harder the booking journey is going to be to the guest. So if you are applying restrictions, try to make it then blanket restrictions across the rate plan. Emotive images, so we can see that on the right hand side there. Prominent inclusions, so really shout and clearly list all of the inclusions that you're giving to that guest. Make sure it's optimized for mobile, and Lloyd actually touched on mobile bookings earlier and how important that is. And then clear booking conditions. So making sure that you're really prominent with your COVID secure policies. And then on the opposite hand, what to avoid. So the pictures on the right hand side, for example, gorgeous pictures for themselves, but actually they don't sell the experience. They're not getting across that experience that you can have at the resort. Operational nightmares is the first one. I think Lloyd, you'll probably agree with me that marketing in their creative way can get carried away sometimes, and they'll think of wonderful ideas, but actually operationally they can sometimes be a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, don't make anything that you offer operational nightmares. Too much fluffy content, so don't try to oversell the package. Keep it very clear, keep it very simple, and make sure that you keep those USPs really prominent. At the same time, don't give too little information. You need to ensure that you are pulling out all of the inclusions of those packages. Restricted stay dates, again, to avoid those. Confusing pricing matrix. So if you are using variant prices, lots of hotels these days use dynamic rate plans. Just make it clear to the customer if they are expected to pay more. So if there is a room upgrade, make sure it's very clear that they are paying more because it's a Friday, or they are paying more because they've got a room upgrade. Missing the target market. So this is something that the St Michael's team do really, really well. They have a look at the data that they can get from their systems and really present to that target audience. So again, making sure that you're looking at your booking windows, you know what guests on your booking engine are searching for, and that your offers are targeted for that guest. And if we could move on to some examples, I think. Perfect, thank you. So here we can see St Michael's booking engine actually. So first of all, offers and packages and where you can explore them. And then on the right hand side there, we've got another mobile experience of Portlim in Kent. And they are another client who sell packages really well in terms of experiences. Lloyd, maybe you can talk to us a little bit of how you bring your packages to life and how you get them across to your customers.
Yes, certainly. We look at sort of previous years sales data and package data to see which are the most successful. We then look at building lookalike audiences around those people, and predominantly we look at targeting them via social media. We find that we're able to get much longer lead times with that, and we're able to essentially increase the amount of people that are booking or searching to book when we have availability. So yeah, we would discuss internally what package we feel will be right for those people, and yeah, it gets highly popularized, and we bring in a lot of traffic to our website through them.
Definitely, and you have a really high conversion rate, Lloyd, on your website from people looking to book. So people looking at the website, then going into the booking engine. Packages definitely help with that. Obviously, we've got the package pages and the booking engine. Do you have any other tactics or any other tips into how to get more people into your booking engine?
Well, first and foremost, our previous booking engine didn't actually have the ability to book online, so we were having to take a lot of our offers and breaks through the phones, which A, was sort of put a lot of strain on the reservationist, but B, it was very hard to track of what we were selling and how effective our marketing was. So by having sort of a new booking engine, we're able to sort of monitor who sort of clicks through from our offers pages or our landing pages for our adverts through to our booking engine. So we're able to monitor each step of that. So as soon as they enter their dates, we can monitor that, and we can see which campaigns it is great at driving sort of awareness and initial booking intention. We can then monitor the step 2 to see who then adds extras and offers onto their package. And then finally we can look at the third step of those who actually reach the payment section and convert. So we're able to be quite granular with looking at our KPIs and our marketing around it. So yeah, having a booking engine which enables you to do this is key for that, really.
That's perfect, thank you, Lloyd. And yeah, moving on to the last section, and I believe, Jane, we've got another poll at this point.
We do indeed, Sam. So let me just launch that one onto the screens. And the question here is, how do you manage guest loyalty proactively? And there's three options. We don't have access to that data, we have an effective guest loyalty scheme, or we plan on setting up a guest loyalty scheme. So lots of people voting there. Let's wait till that slows down a little bit, and then I will share the results of that one. Still, the votes are coming in quite fast. Slowing down a bit now. I'm going to close that poll, so if anyone hasn't voted, please do so now. And very, oh my goodness, what a perfect fit. almost like it's set up, but it's absolutely not. So yeah, a third. That's incredible. So yes, obviously a third of them will definitely want to listen to this. And well, all 100% I want to actually imagine want to listen to this, but a third with particularly keen eyes. So back to you, Sam.
Perfect, thank you, Jane. Yeah, fascinating that that's a third there. So the final point of this presentation is around guest loyalty, and we chose this as a section because there's a really unique opportunity for hotels now to not only attract a higher paying demographic, but also to retain them for repeat guests and future stays, to ensure that for years to come, hotels can still try and get some benefits from an increased ADR to sustain their business moving forward. Moving across then onto the next slide. Thank you. So here we can see impacts on recovery. So here are just some key takeaways and sort of lessons that we learned last year when working with hoteliers. First of all, there was a 34% increase in return stays for 2020. We really looked at this last year because for us, what we saw, thanks to marketing and automation, a huge increase in repeat visits back to hotels. And when we drill down to that even more, we can see there that it was the familiarity, the trust of the brand, the knowing that their health and their security is going to be protected by, knowing what the hotel layout is before, by knowing how, the service is at the hotel. That familiarity really gave guests the confidence to make those bookings. The next section here, so they also have one of the highest return rates. So in terms of what you invest to secure your guests, I know different hotels have different loyalty policies, but the rewards that you give your guests and the incentive to bring them back are often one of the lowest costs, actually, in terms of when you're looking at segments and bringing people into the hotel. Lloyd, I don't know if you wanted to comment on any more on that and what you do at St Michael's to bring guests back and encourage them to come back and stay with you.
Yeah, it's obviously a topic of a big concern for us, or drives a lot of attention. We've been talking about it for the last few months of how do we bring these customers back, or these new customers back that came in 2020, back in 2021, and then going forward when people may be looking for holidays overseas in 2022. How do we ensure that we have full occupancy? So increasing our return customers, we see to be key to that. So we've been sort of looking at ways of improving our CRM to enable us to have better data to our guests, or on our guests, so we can market to them more appropriately. We built a guest experience app when we first opened, sort of during the lockdown, mainly because we were sort of aware that we may take some of that personal interaction with the guests and the team away. So we introduced a guest experience app to try and keep some of that together, and we saw some really good results in terms of usage from guests using the app. So that's something we want to expand further. We obviously use bounce back offers to try and get people to come back, and we're also looking at potentially building a sort of member club, so to try and compete with the OTA sort of clubs that they have in the offers, so we're competitive in that environment too.
Fantastic, thank you, Lloyd. Again, some really valuable insights there. And just two final points to mention. So first of all, what we've seen from our hoteliers are that guests that do book again with hotels, they tend to spend more. They book the more superior types of room accommodations, and they are often the ones which book the packages as well. And then the last point there, so e-marketing. So during the relaunch of hospitality, where hoteliers perhaps had their sales and marketing revenue teams on furlough, email marketing was one of the first marketing activities to really come back and produce bookings. First of all, it was really important to keep your guests and your database engaged through this period of time. But when you were ready to reopen, it's your existing guests that are there to support you first. So yeah, what we saw was a huge increase in email marketing and actually conversions from emails into the booking process, of which most of them were repeat guests as well. And that concludes the second part. It'd be great to have some questions.
Right, brilliant. Well, we have had a few questions come in already, which is great. So I shall just get those up in front of me. Lots of different ones here. I have to choose the potentially the more interesting ones. So gosh, lots, Aggie, some statements on yours with just wanting to point out, I think you said this actually, that hotels are dropping overhead costs, but the dropping of overhead costs is obscured at the moment because of the government help. But I think you did mention that as well. Now, Lloyd, quite a few for you here, Lloyd. How have you differentiated your offers and packages to meet demand? So I guess that's what changes have you made this year compared to previous years to what the changing demand is?
Yeah, so in terms of the packages we've put together, I wouldn't say we've really changed our packages as such. We haven't changed sort of the content of the packages. We know it's worked previously, and audience comes back. But I think what we've done differently is how we've marketed to that and when we've marketed to that. So we've marketed much earlier on towards those audiences, and in times when previously we would have probably still been taking bookings for the next 6 weeks, we've been able to understand that actually we don't really need to advertise too hard for those next 6 weeks. We've got that. We're in a lucky situation where we've got that traffic coming in. So we've really put more attention on how to target that audience and getting more of those booking engine searches to increase demand.
Okay, and you mentioned your spa there, which looks amazing. Have you seen wellness feature as an important theme for staycations?
Yes, it's something that we monitor closely. Wellness is at the heart of our resort, and we feel that it's sort of a trend which is going to grow. We monitor it very closely with sort of search trends. We look at search volume. We look at sort of overseas audiences to see how they are sort of growing in that market. So we have seen that wellness was a trend that had confidence, particularly around December and January, which it wasn't. It was quite hard for us because we had a lot of restrictions on the spa at the time. So we only were able to, have sort of 50% of our services available. But yeah, we certainly saw an increase in demand for our wellness, and that's something which is going to be pivotal to us going forward in November, December, and January this year.
Great, thank you. And there's quite a few here on loyalty and the importance of loyalty and returning guests. One of the questions though, Sam, is I think quite a key one. How easy is it to set up a guest loyalty scheme? That's probably not such an easy question to answer, but it's a good question. It's not.
It's a very good question. Definitely. I mean, there are many ways in setting up a loyalty scheme. First thing I would do is just reach out to your tech partners to see how they can support you. So, for example, with Profit Room, we have an automated automated marketing service that goes out to people that have stayed automatically with an exclusive loyalty number. They can then come back and access hidden rate plans, hidden discounts. They get bespoke promotions just for them. We can also do things like unlocking member rates as well. So I think the first point of call is really understanding your technology and what is available right now. And from there, you can build on it because there's probably differences and impacts that you can do even from today. to really start the beginning of that loyalty.
Okay, great, thank you. And another one on customer segmentation here. How important is customer segmentation along the booking journey? So Sam, again, if you want to take that one, if you need to hand over to Lloyd, then great as well.
Yeah, of course, no problem. So we recognise actually that different types of customers really do have different paths of booking. So first of all, if we talk about category types, so if we're looking at family offers and family packages versus spa breaks, actually people that are looking for a spa break want a very calm, relaxing environment. So the route in which they go to book those offers and go into the booking engine is tailored to that versus family offers, which are more fun and sort of more life in them, if you like. So the way that we get around that, so the way that we integrate Profit Room with hotel websites is through those packages and experiences. So the package and experience that you're viewing on the website, that launches that same experience in the booking engine. Similarly, at step 1, you can compare and search for different offers and packages as well. So straight away, you're targeting directly to that audience type. And I think giving the guest the option to do that, rather than just serving the guest every single rate plan, which actually might not be for them or tailored or targeted to them, you're really missing a chance there for a unique sale. I don't know, Lloyd, if you want to add anything more to that.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough one, and it's something which we're looking at closely with our, we're updating our CRM. It's one of those questions with sometimes a depleted marketing resource to then have to, market to all of those segments separately. It's always a tough one to know whether or not it's, going to be worthwhile. We certainly believe it is, and which is why we're investing in our CRM strategy to enable us to do that. I think with our offers and breaks, obviously there's certain segments which do buy them. We've used particularly to Facebook remarketing and sort of lookalike audiences to build similar customers to what we've received previously. So that's normally how we've done that. We've let sort of Facebook algorithms take ownership of that for us to bring those customers in, but it's certainly something that we are looking to improve on our email communications as well.
Fantastic, thank you both. Now we are really running very short of time, and I've got one for Aggie that I'm a bit nervous about asking because I think the answer might be way too long, so I need a really concise answer from you, Aggie, or we can answer it more fully online afterwards. What are the best KPIs to use to measure profitability? Are you able to do that in a minute?
Yes, I can say that probably one of the best will be GOP per available room at the moment, but obviously yes. So the longer answer to this, it will be, it really depends, because obviously we want to measure profitability of each department and also profitability of a property as a whole, and choose the best choose KPIs for both departments and then for the property as a whole.
That's lovely, concise answer just for that. Thank you very much. There are actually a lot of other questions here, which is probably why my eyes have been darting around the screen as they keep coming in. What I will do is have a proper read of these afterwards and then get back to the various experts, and if we need to, if they warrant a full answer, then we'll put those on the report that we put up with the masterclass as well. But we are drawing towards the end of our time, so I'd like to thank all of our lovely listeners here for listening and for sending those questions in. And just a reminder to please remember that the opinions and the facts and the figures shared today are that. I know a lot of them are based on fact, but they are presented with opinions, so they should be treated as such. If you need formal advice, then please do approach your professional advisors, or do feel free to come to the team at HOSPA, and we can give you a referral, be that onto the experts here today or other experts if they're a little bit off topic. Thank you so much to the panel, who I think have all been amazing today, really knowledgeable, full of wise words and great facts shared there. So thank you, Samantha, Aggie and Lloyd, really appreciate all of that. As I mentioned, you will be able to find a recording of this on our website, and indeed all of our webinars that we did throughout the pandemic last year, as well as what we're going to be doing this year. And we always upload a summary of the key points onto hospa.org as well, so please do keep your eye on that. Today's webinar should be uploaded within about 24 hours or so. We just edited a little bit before it gets uploaded. And whilst you're on our website, you might want to have a quick look at our new recovery section, which is still being developed. So the information on it is growing every day, but do take a look, because what we've tried to do is give some short, sharp top tips for running your business in 2021 and beyond. So please do take a look at that. But thank you for listening. Thank you to my panel today. That was brilliant. And we look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully we can all see each other this year. It's the first time I've been able to say that for a while on one of these broadcasts. Thanks very much, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you and goodbye.